You've seen the yellow and blue livery on track-prepped Civics. You've spotted those Mugen Power sun strips on windshields. Maybe you've admired a Spoon Sports shift knob or lusted after a Mugen body kit. You know these names represent the absolute pinnacle of Honda performance. But do you know the incredible story behind them? What if I told you that these two legendary companies, the ones whose parts are coveted by Honda enthusiasts worldwide, started with a connection so close that one actually helped create the other? What if the greatest rivalry in Honda tuning history wasn't really a rivalry at all, but something far more complex? This is the untold story of how the son of Honda's founder and a former Honda test driver didn't just build tuning companies, they built legends that would define what it means to extract every ounce of performance from Honda's engineering. From Formula racing dominance to grassroots track heroes, from million-dollar limited editions to the parts you can bolt onto your Civic today. In 1973, the son of Honda's founder started a company that would become legendary in the world of Honda performance. But 15 years later, a former Honda test driver would create what many consider to be its greatest rival. This is the story of two companies that took Honda's engineering to the absolute limit, and how their competition shaped the entire JDM tuning scene forever. Our story begins not with rivalry, but with legacy. In 1965, just before graduating from Nihon University, a young man named Hirotoshi Honda was building racing cars in his home workshop. But this wasn't just any young man. He was the son of Soichiro Honda, the legendary founder of Honda Motor Company. By 1973, Hirotoshi had a vision. Along with his partner, Masao Kimura, he founded a company called Mugen, which means limitless or unlimited. The name perfectly captured their philosophy. There would be no boundaries to what they could achieve with Honda engines. What made Mugen special wasn't just the family connection, though that certainly helped. It was their approach to performance. While other companies were chasing turbos and complex systems, Mugen had a different philosophy entirely. They believed that adding turbochargers meant adding intercoolers, which added weight, which reduced performance. So they focused on extracting every ounce of power from naturally aspirated engines, and it worked. By 1989, Mugen engines were dominating European Formula 3000, with Gianalesi winning the championship in a car powered by their MF 308 engine. They followed this up with championships in 1990 and 1991. Mugen wasn't just a tuning company, they were proving that Honda engineering could compete at the highest levels of motorsport. But while Mugen was conquering Formula racing, something interesting was happening back in Japan. A Honda test driver and racer named Tatsuru Ichishima was watching, learning, and preparing to create something that would challenge everything. In 1988, Ichishima made a bold move. He left his comfortable position at Honda to start his own company, Spoon Sports. But here's where it gets interesting. His decision to start the company had backing from both Honda and Mugen. That's right. Mugen actually supported the creation of what would become their biggest competitor. Why would they do this? Because Ichishima offered something valuable in return: racing data. Honda would support Spoon's racing efforts in exchange for the technical information they gathered on the track. It was a win-win situation that would later create one of the most fascinating dynamics in automotive history. Spoon set up shop in Tokaido, Suginami, Tokyo, along the Koshu Highway, with a simple but powerful mission: specialize in tuning Honda engines with total technology and real comfort. But unlike Mugen's focus on high-level Formula racing, Spoon had their eyes on something different: grassroots racing and street performance. This is where our story gets really interesting. Both companies were working with Honda engines, both focused on naturally aspirated power, but their approaches couldn't have been more different. Mugen brought Formula racing technology to the street. Their parts were engineered with the precision and performance standards of Formula 3000. When you bought a Mugen part, you were getting technology that had been proven at the highest levels of motorsport. Spoon, on the other hand, took a more grassroots approach. Ichishima's background as a test driver and racer meant he understood what real drivers needed on real tracks. Spoon's philosophy centered around making cars that were fast, reliable, and actually enjoyable to drive on both the street and track. By the 1990s, both companies were proving their worth on the racetrack, but in very different ways. Mugen continued their Formula racing dominance while also expanding into other series. When Honda developed the NSX, Mugen was right there, building race versions for various racing teams. They were the technology leaders, pushing the boundaries of what Honda engines could achieve. Meanwhile, Spoon was making their mark in grassroots racing. They became legends in Super Taikyu, winning the ST4 class championship. But they didn't stop there. They took their cars to international races, scoring class wins at the Nürburgring 24 Hours, the Tokachi 24 Hours, and even achieving a stunning 6th overall finish at the 2008 Macau Grand Prix with founder Ichishima himself behind the wheel. The 1990s brought something that would change both companies forever: Honda's VTEC technology. This was a game-changer for naturally aspirated performance, and both Mugen and Spoon were perfectly positioned to take advantage. But once again, their approaches differed. Mugen applied their Formula racing expertise to extract maximum power from VTEC engines, creating some of the most potent, naturally aspirated Honda engines ever built. Spoon, meanwhile, focused on making VTEC engines that were not just powerful, but perfectly balanced for track use. This period saw both companies create some of their most legendary builds. Mugen developed enhanced versions of Honda's Type R models, adding their trademark precision engineering. Spoon created their own interpretations, focusing on weight reduction, perfect balance, and that indefinable quality they called real comfort. As we moved into the 2000s and beyond, something interesting happened. While the Honda community often debated which company was better, Spoon and Mugen themselves maintained a relationship of mutual respect. In 2008, Spoon celebrated their 20th anniversary with something special: the NSX RGT, based on the 2002 Honda NSXR and built to Super GT racing regulations. It was their way of showing that after 2 decades, they were still pushing boundaries. Meanwhile, Mugen continued their racing heritage, achieving victories in Super GT and even returning to Formula racing with Super Formula, where they won races and championships throughout the 2010s. So, who won this rivalry? The truth is, it was never really a rivalry in the traditional sense. Both companies have different strengths, different philosophies, and different approaches to Honda performance. Mugen represents the pinnacle of Honda racing technology, formula-proven engineering brought to the street with precision and no compromises. When you want the absolute maximum performance from a Honda engine, Mugen is often the answer. Spoon represents the soul of Honda performance: grassroots racing heritage, real-world usability, and that perfect balance between speed and enjoyment. When you want a Honda that's fast but still fun to drive every day, Spoon is your choice. The real winners were Honda enthusiasts around the world, who got to benefit from the innovations and competition between these two legendary companies. Whether you're Team Mugen or Team Spoon, one thing is certain: Both companies took Honda's engineering philosophy of continuous improvement and pushed it to places even Soichiro Honda might never have imagined. Today, both companies continue to operate, adapting to Honda's changing lineup while staying true to their core philosophies. Mugen continues their Formula racing heritage and high-precision engineering. Spoon returned to Super Taikyu Racing in 2024, proving that after more than 35 years, they're still committed to their grassroots racing DNA. The rivalry between Spoon and Mugen wasn't just about who could make more power. It was about two different visions of what Honda performance could be. And in the end, both visions were right. The next time you see a modified Honda tearing up a track or carving through mountain roads, remember that it's probably carrying the DNA of this legendary competition, whether it wears the Spoon yellow and black or sports that iconic Mugen red. Because sometimes the best rivalries aren't about destroying your competition. They're about pushing each other to be better than either could be alone. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay updated on more stories from the world of automotive legends. What's your take? Are you Team Spoon or Team Mugen? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.